Perfect. So I'll be sharing my screen. I hope that is visible with all of you. Abhinav, can you give me a heads up if the screen is visible? Great, great. So good morning, everyone. We are at SterlCent building an alternative investment platform for all the retail investors that we have around. Did you know, this is a quite interesting fact, the total individual financial wealth market of India happens to be around 465 lakh crores. This is the data based on 2020, and that is across different investment instruments that we have been seeing. Mostly all the alternative investments are not covered over here. This 465 lakh crore just typically includes only and only the traditional investment instruments that we've been seeing around. It could be your typical fixed deposit, stock market, mutual funds, and so on and so forth. Speaking about the contribution of the alternative asset, it's just 2 lakh crore of the whole space. How small it is. Moving ahead, why we started building this platform is because certainly these traditional investments that we have been seeing for long now are these on the screen. And the typical characteristics of these investment instruments will be either they will be highly volatile for the retail users. And considering all the retail investors are primarily occupied with some or the other task in their life, they do not really understand what is the entry and exit point with each of these investment instruments. They would not essentially be understanding as to where their funds should be parked and in what manner. Or else these investment instruments will be reaping out comparatively lower returns to these investors. And this is in comparison to the, sorry, just got distracted with someone in the waiting room. Yes. So these returns are comparatively lower, and in that extent, wherein this is not even sufficient to beat out the inflation as well. Moving to the alternatives, there are certain investment instruments that we have mentioned over here, which happens to be offering comparatively stable returns, and those are lesser volatile for the users. Now, these could be peer-to-peer lending that we have been seeing around. Now, peer-to-peer lending could be as simple as someone in this meeting directly lending me money without any regulatory obligation. Lease investments, it could be investing into the leasing equipments of any of the businesses. So it could be as simple as leasing a heavy machinery to any of the companies that you see around. Then comes the private equity. Private equity is something on a very smaller scale as we see on the Shark Tank. Shark Tank is a form of private equity itself, where an individual comes and invests into a business or a company. Hedge funds, there are certain funds that are created to hedge out the risk that is associated with the primary investment. Then there is a recent trend in the alternative space that is coming, which is impact investments that we see. Now, these are considered around environmental protection. These could be social benefit investments. And just to give you a classic example, these days, a lot of companies who have their budgets towards impact investment have been investing into solar panels. So these are sort of impact investments that we see around. Now, how does SterlCent help over there? SterlCent is nothing but a simple platform that is going to bridge the gap between the alternative investments and a retail investor. Because alternative investments have always been something which is recognized as something meant for HNIs. People have just been investing in alternative assets over there. Now, why did we build SterlCent? Is because we wanted to offer alternative investments to retail investors with collaborative investment spaces. So for our users, it is not really necessary to invest a minimum of 50 or 75 lakh rupees in an alternative asset. A person with as low as 25,000 rupees can also join the pool and start investing into such high grade alternative assets. These are certain features that we are improvising on, and that is where our strength lies. We have been providing financial assistance to our users in past. All our investments that are available on the marketplace, these are highly research backed, and we have an exhaustive due diligence process that we follow. There's an about 150 to 175 checklist items that we follow before onboarding any of the asset side stakeholders on our platform. We also manage portfolio for a lot of our users who have been reinvesting with us for long now. Active Diverse dashboard is something that you have already in access if you are an investor with us. These are certain users who have been landing, and that is where our strength lies when we have been creating this platform for all age groups. Now coming to one specific asset class of the whole ecosystem, which is aviation, and that's exactly what we'll be driving this conversation today. Now, recently, we've already seen Air India placing a massive order for aircrafts, and we have been noticing after the failure of Go First, the kind of traffic that has increased for the remaining airlines and the kind of potential that is there for the remaining airlines in the market. However, the point over here is in the aviation sector, the kind of pilot quality that is required and the kind of number of pilots that are required is not something which is actively available in India right now. And that is exactly where I'll be giving the complete meeting to Abhinav now, who will be explaining more potential about the aviation sector now. Abhinav, can you?
Yeah, thanks.
Do you want?
Thanks, Arthak. Okay. Thank you everyone for your time. And let me first pick up the burning question, which is generally put across to us that Jet Airways has failed, Go First is failing. So what is the future of aviation? Any problem comes along, and the first casualties are generally in the aviation sector. So what is the issue and why are we here? And then, how is the investors' money going to grow? So now I want to highlight one thing. There are two things. One is the infrastructure and the number of passengers traveling from place A to place B. The other is the management of those airlines. Now, if there are 100 passengers who are supposed to travel from place A to place B, there is X number of pilot that is needed to do that. If the traffic grows, the number of aircraft will grow, the number of pilots required will grow. So the number of pilots, cabin crew, engineers, the entire human resource is continuously going to grow. What happens during all this is the way our policies are designed, the way our management at few airlines have functioned, they go in losses and close down. But that doesn't mean the number of passengers going from place A to place B is going down. So till the time that number keeps increasing, the number of pilots required keeps increasing. So like you saw after Jet Airways, the aircraft got stripped off and repainted. Many of them went to SpiceJet because they were operating 737 fleet. All their slots were, hogged by Indigo and SpiceJet. And so that is what happens. An airline as a management going down doesn't mean the number of passengers is going down. So when you look at the market size for pilots and crew and engineers, this is what you need to understand, that if the traffic is growing, the demand for these skilled talent pool is continuously going to grow. The second thing is, which I always try and highlight. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, okay, I'll just continue like this. Sarthak, my screen sharing is not enabled. Yeah.
You could be able to share now.
Okay. I'll not go through the entire presentation. I'll just quickly go through the points because I believe all of you already have this document. If not, then you can let me know and I'll stop. So I'll come back to this point, what our vision is. But first, let me highlight one issue, which is the pilot requirement in the world. So this problem, as you know, 1 out of 6 engineers in the world is an Indian. Okay, one out of 5 doctors, again Indian. So there are a lot of fields where Indians are doing well. You talk about software. We have provided software engineers to every corner of the world now. Okay, people sitting here and doing work, people sitting abroad and doing work. So there are fields which where we have done extremely well. This is not that field. So aviation, when it comes to pilots and engineers in aviation sector, we are far behind. We are still importing pilots. So sometimes you hear a foreign accent on an airline is because if you look at the proportion, it's like 1 out of 20 pilots are Indian. So even with the world's proportion that we have in terms of population, we should have been doing well. Okay, we produce around 700 to 800 pilots, whereas our requirement to match at least the population ratio is 6,000 to 7,000 pilots every year. So we are just producing 1/10 of the pilot, and that too not in India. So when we say we're producing 800 pilots, we're actually producing 400 pilots in India. The other 400, they go abroad, get trained, come back, and then work in India. So the revenue loss still happens, and it's like we are importing foreign trained pilots. Those pilots may be Indian. So they show in our data as Indian pilots. So this is a problem wherein for a long time we have not focused on improving our infrastructure and matching the demand that exists. So every time, like in COVID, you found a lot of pilots went jobless for some time, but they all get absorbed as the flying resumes. Everyone gets absorbed, and the problem that has escalated now is during COVID, lot of pilots took voluntary retirement. People who were at the age of 60, 61, pilots can fly up to 65. So those who were nearing that age, they already took retirement. Regular retirements keep happening. So people who were reaching 65 now and those who didn't retire, they also retired. Number of pilots who were supposed to join and start training, that was less. Obviously, because they were afraid of what is going to happen to this sector. So number of students who got inducted in this were less. So 23, 24, 25. This year, again, North America is facing shortage of pilots. India, the problem has already started, and it is going to continue like this. After every slowdown, recession, you always find that there is a lag, and after 2-3 years, you suddenly have shortage of pilots. So this is just to highlight the present condition of the market. That being said, pilot training is part of the education sector in a way, because after 10+2 you get trained for a particular job. So this, with the population of India being the largest market now for pilot training or education for any of that matter, this is continuously going to grow. So that was me trying to highlight that there is an absolute demand for these. And what we are trying to solve is to create an ecosystem wherein our pilots who get trained with us, they reach, they basically progress in their career and find a job. So that is one thing that separates us from the rest. When we say that you are getting trained with us, our aim is that we should take you to the airline cockpit. So that entire journey is with us. How we do it is, that is pretty simple. We create an alternate demand for pilots within our ecosystem and then train them. So we'll come to that demand, how we create that demand. Before that, if we are operationally efficient, we can reduce the training cost. We can improve the quality of training. So all that comes from our experience with the Air Force, me, Air Commodore RV Kumar, who is in our team. So this is what we have done. So we know how operationally you can improve a flying training organization. So that is the core strength that we have, and we are trying to leverage that. There is no rocket science in pilot training. There is a fixed syllabus. It is how you execute it, how you teach it, and how you make sure that within the span of time that you want to achieve those targets, you are able to do that. That has been something, the quality, safety, and time-wise completion of training that has been lacking in the Indian aviation sector. So even if we were not bridging the gap till the job, even if we would have just focused on that, on this part, that would have solved the problem for a lot of students, right? So this is our ecosystem, flying training, followed by the next phase, which is hobby flying and point-to-point connectivity. Uh, so as I told you, quality, safety, and translation of training into career. This is our focus for pilot training. Okay. The next phase, which is of hobby flying, wherein we take this idea that you can, all of you can be a private pilot. Anyone can give me a ballpark figure of how much do you think you will spend on becoming a pilot? If you have to become a pilot, anyone, guessworks are fine.
25-30 lakhs.
Right. So not very accurate, because if you have to become a pilot and not fly for an airline, then this figure will change. If you have to just fly for fun, you have to spend not more than 8 to 9 lakhs, which you can do over a period of 2-3 years. So people have golf as hobby, people have people spend lakhs on tourism, but if they take out a budget of a couple of lakhs every year, within 3 to 4 years, getting trained over weekends, you can be a private pilot. Okay. So you can have your license, go to any place where the type of aircraft that is mentioned on your license is available, and you can go and fly them. Book the aircraft for an hour, take your family along. So this is something that we see, and we feel that this is only for maybe celebrities, and in India we have John Travolta, Gul Panag, we have Kunal Kapoor, who are private pilots. You have Hollywood celebrities, John Travolta and Tom Cruise, and people think that this is only something that can be done by people who have lots of money and lots of free time. You don't have to own an aircraft. You can take it on rent at as low as 15,000 an hour. So if you have to travel from, let's say, Pune to Goa, and there is a private airport, and the flying time will be 2 hours. So you can do that in 35-40,000, booking an aircraft, taking a family of 2-3 people. You will find that most of the time it will be something similar to an airline ticket. But you would be flying your family and taking them there. And maybe the aircraft can be recovered by the agency and something like Zoom car, and it can be got, taken back. So that is a culture which exists already in the US and other developed nations, wherein you can have a private pilot license. Then farmers have private pilot license and use smaller aircraft for pesticides, and now those jobs are being taken up by drones. But earlier, the farmers, regular farmers, had private pilot license. They had their own aircraft in the backyard. The aircrafts costed around 40-50 lakh that time. And it was okay for those farmers who could afford that for irrigation of larger fields and for farming purposes. So this is the culture that we want to introduce. And the market size in India is as good as, or maybe if not better than the US. And there are 3 lakh hobby flyers as on today in the US. In India, that number is 3,000. Okay. So this is the gap that we have. Not many players focus on this. So we obviously have a first mover advantage, which we can leverage if we be there first. So now, how does this create jobs for my pilots? So people who join us for commercial pilot license, they become instructors with us and start training these hobby flyers. So hobby flyers also need instructors to get trained on. So that job requirement, if filled by these students, so they start building up their experience, their hours, they start earning from their salaries, and we have a trained human resource at our disposal, who have been trained with a good quality under us. So it solves our problem of human resource, solves the pilot's problem of finding a job immediately after training, and it gives us access to a market which is, and solves the customer's problem of where should I go for my private pilot license, and how can I do this. So we took this question to a lot of smaller circles, maybe few of our friends and the uh, Google and Amazon and bigger companies, where we floated this idea that if you got a chance to get a private pilot license, will you be willing to spend so much amount over so and so period? And it is almost nothing for people in the salary brackets of 20-25 lakh a year and beyond. This amount doesn't feel a lot. And to get a this has been a dream for a lot of children and in the early stages. So we do school counseling sessions, we go to schools, and we ask this question to class 6th, 7th, 8th students, and how many of you want to become pilots? And believe you me, 60 to 70% of the class will raise their hand the moment they'll hear that who all wants to become pilots. You take the same question to 12th standard, and suddenly that number is down to 0 to 1%. So out of 30 students, one will raise their hand. So something is happening between 6th, 7th, and 10th, 11th. The school counselors, the outside counselors who come to tell you what jobs you can do, their assessments which are done, there is no exposure to that. This field also exists, right? So we spoke to school counselors, and they didn't know that after 10+2 you can undergo this training and become a pilot. So this is what we're trying to solve. So our efforts are in all these directions simultaneously. We keep interacting with school principals and counselors and tell them this is how it can be done, and it also gives us access to the market pool for us. So we get students data from these counseling session, and then we created a pipeline for next 4-5 years. We had 6-7 students, 6-7 standard students coming with their parents to our office for counseling session. So we just told them that there's a lot of time. Right now, just focus on your studies. After 10th, please take science stream, take physics and maths, what is needed. So but there is a lot of scope and lack of awareness which needs to be addressed. So similarly for private pilot license and as well as commercial pilot license. So the corporate crowd doesn't know that this is a hobby that they can pick up and do it in their free time. It's not that difficult. Flying training wise, they have to take out only 25-30 days. Come to our flying club, take a leave for maybe a month, and go back as a private pilot. Before that, the exams that they have to clear, that they can study over weekends, have access to our video lectures, which we are now creating a library, and maybe we'll push it onto an app, something like the edtech platforms do, and have access to all the lectures over that app, and put it on a subscription model. So that is already going on, and so this is our typical market. Let me right. So as I told you, India has very limited infrastructure. We have 35 flight schools, and what we need to produce those 6,000, 7,000 pilots is 120. US has over 1,100 flight schools. The reason why students from all across the world pile up in the US for their flight training. Right. I've already touched upon the infrastructure, job conversion, and the problems that our students face. And the hobby flying market in India is completely untapped. So you will have this presentation also available with you. And so I'm going at a much faster pace. You can stop me wherever you want, you can unmute yourself and ask me anything, anywhere. Right. So this is the structure of the course, how our operational costs look and how we are different. So the students generally take this direct route. They do their student pilot license, spend around 1.5 2 lakh, do their theory classes, clear the DGC exams, which takes around 6 to 7 months. So after all that, then you can do your private pilot license. The operational cost, if we train a certain number of students, let's say if we are able to train 1,000 plus PPL students, then our operational cost comes down to around 5 lakh for this. That's why I said 8 lakh, wherein I included our profits as well. So then you have CPL training, which requires 160 more hours of flying. So for PPL, you need 40 hours of flying. For CPL, you need 200 hours of flying. So the operational cost goes to around 24-25 lakh. And this course is being sold at a total price of around 37 lakh. Then the regular route is this, wherein after CPL, students undergo type rating. To give you context, type rating is basically if you're flying A320 with Indigo, you have to undergo a separate training. If you're flying 737 with SpiceJet, there is a separate training. It's a 1 month training on simulators. And so that costs around 15 to 20 lakh. And then the airlines will hire you. Now, our idea is don't go through this route, become an instructor with us, spend another 6 lakh, and then start earning from the next day at a average salary of 75,000, going up to 1.2, 1.3 lakh per month. So this might look a little less in comparison to a JFO, but how this whole thing places you ahead of the crowd is what we are trying to tell our students. When you become a flight instructor, start building your hours. Within 1 year, 1.5 years, you'll have 1,000, 1,500 hours. So now you've got a student who has 1,500 hours. Building these hours, that student has already recovered the training cost to a large extent. In 1 month, in 1 year, you would have recovered around 12 lakh. If you do it for 2 years, you would have recovered almost 50-60% of your training cost. You do it for 3 years, and you would have recovered 100% of your training cost. So we have now given a name to this course, and we call it ATPL 0. What it means is you pay us 45 lakh, and after 3 years, we'll pay you a lump sum of 45 lakh. You fly with us for 3 years. That is what is required, and finish 3,000 hours. So look at it for a student at the age of 18, 19. They join us at 22, 23. They would be passing out from our place with 1,500 hours, not 1,500, actually 3,000 hours, and they would have recovered the entire training cost. What we would have got is trained human resource at much competitive, price. So it works for the student, for us, and it also works for the airline. Now they get a student or a JFO with 3,000 hours of experience, unlike a student who was coming with 200 hours of experience. When the airlines get that, they generally waive off these type rating charges, or they sponsor the type rating for these students. So the student has multiple benefit, which is not known to a lot of students. So we tell them about this, that this is how it works. So if you are more trained, more qualified, like pilots retiring from the Air Force, they don't pay this 15 lakh. So they get it sponsored because they've got more experience. So this is what we're trying to tell our students as well. Right? These are the courses, how it looks. So it might look a little off for you earlier. Our pricing for people has been, around 6.8 lakh. In market, you have places which even charge 6.5, but they don't deliver at all. CPL cost, now we are charging around 37 lakh. The market has already increased to above 40. And when we say job assured pilot course, this is including the type rating. If we have to give a solution to Indigo and SpiceJet, we have already written to those airlines. So we give them a solution that, instead of spending 1.2 CR, 90 lakh, what is being done now, the students can spend up to around 65 lakh with us, and we can make sure that they go through this entire process and reach you with the type rating. If they just do the ATPL program, ATPL is the next license to CPL. So like BBA and MBA, integrated ATPL is the next stage, and that is mandatory if you want to become the commander of the airline. For that, you need around 1,500 hours. So when we are giving 1,500, 3,000 hours to our pilots, our intention is to make them qualified for ATPL. These are the only two licenses, CPL and further ATPL, which the pilots need to, achieve. So ATPL, a lot of pilots, they do it at the age of 30, 35, and then become commanders. We are telling our students that you can, in that same, stride of studying and getting your CPL, you can finish the ATPL as well within the first 2-3 years when your intake is even better. Right. So, just I think I just lost my sharing privilege. So let me just.
Yes.
Should I continue?
In of time, maybe we could just discuss about some numbers and then keep the floor open for everyone to shoot up their questions.
Right. Okay, so I'll quickly, can I get the screen sharing option again?
Here you go.
Yeah. So this is what we are doing now. We are at Latur, which is our first base. By the end of third year, we want to have 3 bases and have around 22 aircraft, 20 single engine, 2 multi-engine. And this is the key matrix, how it appears. So this is with a figure of around 10 aircraft available with us. Right now, we have 3 aircraft in the and 4th aircraft is in the process of acquisition. Once we reach around 10 aircraft, these are the numbers that we will be achieving. So when we say first year is after we get to a number of 10 aircraft. Right now, our revenues have been thus. So these were the years when our regulatory approvals were going on. So we were just charging from ground school training. So September 2019 is was the company established, and January onwards we had the batches of students. We had 3-4 students in the first batch, and the number went to 42 lakh in 2021. We closed 22 with a 2.1 CR revenue, and this year we have closed with 5 CR revenue. Next year, if let's say we don't do this round and we go through our organic growth, we'll be doing a revenue of around 11 CR to 12 CR. So there will be always a 200 to 300% jump that we'll be able to achieve organically. If we are able to reach our aircraft number faster, this growth will be that much faster. So this has been our journey. Just a minute. We just signed the agreement at the second base with Airport Authority of India. I think that is already information shared with you. And this is the total market size that I was talking about. Just the CPL training market is $375 million. And this is where we are at at present. The next phase, which is of hobby flying and point-to-point connectivity, these two are interlinked. If you are a hobby flyer, you can book an aircraft and use it for your travel. So that sector of point-to-point connectivity, which is private regional tourism and connectivity, is of around $1.4 billion. And so this is our outlook for the next phase of point-to-point, much higher funds 2 years from now, of over 150 CR, and get onto this. So the investment options already explained by SterlCent. A brief about our team that is available with you, and I'll leave it at this and keep the floor open for questions.
Lovely. I'll just take back the screen sharing rights.
Yeah.
Great. So folks, feel free to unmute. Probably, I think the flow that we would want to follow is you can just simply raise your hand and we can take your questions in. I think there were some questions in the chat, probably, if someone wants to unmute and just have that question. I think there is a question from Abhay. Maybe Abhinav, if you want to take that.
Just a minute. Okay, what's your rank in 35 companies in terms of revenue and profit? Right. So our revenues are pretty simple. If you got one aircraft, you can take admission of 10 students only. If you got 3 aircraft, you can take admission of 30 students. So if I take 30 students, my total revenue from those 30 students will be around 12 CR with an average of around 40 lakh fees per student. So that is the max that I can achieve during a period of 8 to 10 months. That will be their life cycle in flying training. So 8 to 10 months is what it takes. So in a year, maybe my max revenue that can be achieved will be around 13 to 14 CR. That is the number that I told you that if we grow organically, this is the number that we'll have this year. So we started collecting revenues from flight training in March 2022. That is just 15 months back. So we already had around 11-12 students who were waiting in line, who had cleared their exam, and they immediately joined us. That is how we got the first year revenue of around 2 CR. The next year, all the students who have paid their first installments, there are few students who have paid the second installment, third installment. So 40 lakh we collect in 3 phases, 15 lakh, and then 10 lakh. So that is the life cycle. So the total revenue will be realized over a period of 8 to 10 months. So the first batch students, they have paid the fees in full, but the next batch students, so from 30 students, on average of 15 lakh, we get a revenue of 4.5 CR. I'm saying that when they take admission, they have to pay 15 lakh. That is the number where we are at now. If we go up to 6 to 7 aircraft, this number goes to 60 to 70 students. The revenue straight away doubles. And from 12-13 CR, we are looking at 24 to 25 CR. So that is where we want to be at. Any flying club, when it starts, it needs to have minimum 3 aircraft. So where we stand in terms of this is that we are a new flying club. So we only have 3 aircraft. So the flying clubs which started much before us, a few of them have reached 5 aircraft, 6 aircraft. And so I would rate myself somewhere 12th or 13th in terms of infrastructure. So there are a lot of government flying schools which run only with 3 aircraft and they do not expand. So keeping those aside, being a new flying club, we are below the leaders who have 10, 15 aircraft. So there are 3 flying schools which have more than 10 aircraft. The rest, everyone has less than 10. And our aim in the third year is to be the largest flying school in India. So that is what we'll achieve. Uh, Even without investment, we'll be able to achieve that in 5 to 6 years. So that is where we are at. And profit, FY 21-22, we were profitable. 22-23 also we are profitable. So profitability will be maintained because that is where our strength is. The profits might not be huge because we have expenses lined up. And now we have to build the infrastructure at Tezu as well. So one of the flying club infrastructure has been completed at Latur. The next phase already started. We would have maybe delayed taking the next airport, but since this is, an opportunity which doesn't come very easily, and winning a contract for 25 years at an airport from the central government is again not easy. So we don't want to let it go, and they've given us a good amount of time, almost 1.5 years, to develop that airfield. So we'll be doing that as well. So that's Abhay, anything else you want me to elaborate?
Folks, please feel free to unmute and chip in.
Yeah. So
Yeah, hi Abhinav.
yeah, hi.
Yeah, I would like to know. Suppose I get a license as a hobby flying. So,
Yeah.
how many years the license will be valid for?
10 years it will be valid, and it can at the end of 10th year you have to again you don't have to undergo training, but you have to just like renew your license. So it's like a driving license. So
And how much would be the cost in renewing that?
at that time it will be around if you are continuously flying during the period, the cost will not be more than 30,000-40,000, which is the government fees so of license renewal. So the cost where it comes is if you stop flying. So let's say 10 years you took the license and you did not fly at all, then the cost will go up to around 2 lakh to 2.5 lakh, because you'll have to do some flying to justify that you still are, in practice of flying.
Okay, got it. And any plans for marketing near future?
See, as of now, we've got more than what we can chew. The number of students that we have right now lined up is over 100, and we can only admit 30. So the urgency of trying to get infrastructure is because, see, our course pricing, and we are the only flight school which gives it in writing that we'll finish the flying training in 12 months. No other flight school gives it in writing in their agreement. So with these two, the product is such that at this stage, aviation being so small community, we don't need any marketing. We spend only around 20,000-25,000 on SEO, and that's all.
So at present, you have 3 aircraft, means you have the capacity to train 30 students in a year.
Yes, 30
And
students in around 10 months. So 8 to 10 months, and maybe so the total capacity will be around 33, 34.
And you are going to increase it to 10 aircraft in how many years?
Organically, it will happen in 2.5 to 3 years. If we keep raising investment, it can happen in 6 to 7 months.
Okay. So 10 number is kind of like very short. If you want to really grow, if you want to tap the sizable amount of market share. So any long-term horizon, like how many aircraft would you be needing at least, let's say 10% capturing the market share?
No, so we have a plan to have over 100 aircraft, and that will not only be utilized in flying training, but also for hobby flying and point-to-point connectivity. Now, why we want to do that is basically, if we do that, we'll be able to capture almost 40% of the existing market, and the total addressable market, if you look at it, maybe we'll be at around 10 to 15%. So there is an untapped market, and that is why these figures come like this. And as of now, the total number of aircraft in the flying training industry itself is around 150. So that is the total number of aircraft in all those 35 flight schools that you have. These are the aircraft which are available. So when we say we've got 10 to 15 aircraft, we are already at 10% of the market. This number is going to grow. So in 1 year, 1.5, 2 years, you will have 200 aircraft. And if we are at 25, 30 aircraft in the flying training sector, organically at every 10, 15 admission, we can buy one aircraft. So we take the first installment deposit. So we do it organically. Plus, so the vision that we have is from our investments, we don't want to buy everything through the investment. We reach 10 to 15 aircraft. And thereafter, we are pretty sure that the numbers that we have, with that, for every 15, 20 students, we will keep buying one aircraft. So if we're able to convert 150, 200 students, we will straight away get 8 to 9 aircraft in that year. And that would be the correct sustainable way of growing the flying training sector. Then on the side, we have our app development towards point-to-point connectivity and hobby flying. And from that vertical, we might take larger investment and let's say take Southern India, connect 7, 8 places and put 5 aircraft each at those places, and give people an option to book aircraft like Uber. So that is the vision. That is where we'll be needing an investment of over 150 CR. We'll take this pitch to bigger funds and try and execute it within a period of 3 to 4 years. Why that? Because that is the regulatory time that we need. We have already gone through the rut, so we know. And if it doesn't happen from that, we will still be doing it organically. Just that instead of 3 years, it might take 7 to 8 years. But this is what is going to happen.
Okay, that's great. And one more question: is it fair enough to assume that if you acquire 10 aircraft, then you would be self-sufficient in buying another aircraft? Am I wrong?
Yes,
in assuming this?
we are self-sufficient even now. But if we get 10 aircraft, what 10 aircraft does is it gives us higher profit margins. Right now, whether we pay the rent for one airfield, we have a team of engineers and pilots, so our fixed cost remains the same, and the variable cost till the 8th to 10th aircraft is very much under control. So with that, our profit margins from 15-20% straight away goes to around 35-40%. So with that kind of operational profits, we will be able to grow faster. So 10 to 12 aircraft is an ideal number for one airport. And that is why that is the magic figure that we are looking at. So yeah, that's the reason.
Okay. Thank you, Abhinav, for taking my questions. It's really nice talking to you.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Sure, Marjit.
Right.
Abhinav, I think we have a couple of questions queued up in the chat. Taking up Deepak's question. He's asking, is the 3x equity growth after 3 years surely guaranteed? What happens to these equity after 5 years? I think probably I'll take up that question for you, Abhinav. Yes, Deepak, this 3x growth is something which is surely guaranteed, and considering how you've just understood the plan of growth from Abhinav himself, and we understand how many aircrafts we'll be adding to the portfolio of Hercules Aviation Training School in next 5 years. Definitely, this 3x growth is something which is guaranteed. Given the previous financials that we have evaluated, there was higher than 3x growth. However, considering this is a closed-ended private equity fund wherein people are investing using our platform, we wanted to give a stable confirmation about the investment. This is not a speculative space that we keep for our investors. And that is the reason we have kept a 3x guaranteed return over there after the exit tenure, which is the 5 years. Now, the second part of your question, what happens to these equity after 5 years? You'll be typically given a buyback offer from Abhinav and the team. So if you are willing to take an exit, you are happy to do that after 60 months. However, if you want to stay invested with the pool, you can just decline the buyback offer and continue to stay invested and take out the benefit as equivalent to as any other equity investment. So I think that is what answers your question.
Right. I would just like to add on to it maybe and elaborate it a bit. So the structure of preference shares that we have kept is you've got an option to convert to equity. So you can continue holding your preference shares and keep taking the guaranteed returns, which are 9% per year. So if you want to treat it like an FD with an option of taking 9% dividend every year, it is up to you. If you want to be in the same boat as us and leave aside that 9% maybe and be purely on equity, then you become part of the larger tranche wherein the 3x growth is also, you share the same growth as us. So you take the same risk as us, you take the same growth as us. That is the idea. This is the same shareholder agreement that we signed with our friends and family. There is no change. You can check it from the MCF filings. From the first day, this is the idea that we have had to give comfort to our investors who at those stage, who would have needed some assurance when this was a paper and pen plan and there was nothing, no aircraft, no airport and nothing at all. So we wanted to give them an assurance that, if you don't want to take risk, take 9% and continue. So the equity deal is structured like that. And for those who want even lesser risk, I think SterlCent has also designed an NCD deal wherein you just take 14% and you don't get to part of the equity structure. So this is what we thought was the best for the investors. Right. So
Great. I think we've answered your question, Deepak. There is another question from Deepak. Would you consider HATS equivalent to Frankfin?
Frankfin. See, Frankfin is a cabin crew training institute, and we will not consider ourselves equivalent to Frankfin for two reasons. For you, it appears that they are also training cabin crew, and we are also training pilot air crew. There's a lot of difference. That is a personality building institute wherein you are taught public speaking and whatnot and other things which are related to it. The cabin crew goes to the airline, and then again there is a mandatory requirement of getting trained on the aircraft, which is separate. So this is more like a personality building course, and thus they have a wider reach. Even Frankfin graduates sometimes join hotels and hospitality industry. So comparing the two will not be correct. There are hundreds of such institutes which are not regulated by DGCA and the government. So Frankfin doesn't need a government approval and DGCA approval, but we need. So the difference between, let's say, FITGI or IIT coaching institute and the actual college, that is what will define us as well.
Great. There is another question from Ankit. He's asking, what could be the challenges, threats, or blockers to the growth?
What I see is the blockers or the humps are mostly natural calamities, like COVID, which doesn't allow us to function. Other than that, public policy used to be a blocker. And in the last couple of years, the initiatives which have been there and the kind of contracts the government has designed, it has become much, much better. There was also an issue of corruption with DGCA, which has reduced to very, very lower levels. So these are the challenges that we have practically faced. When we researched that, then also these were the few things that we were able to identify. We started, if you can see, we did our first fundraising during the first wave of COVID. That's June, July 2020. When everyone was going away from aviation, we were getting into it. And the reason was that that was the best time to, get into aviation, knowing that, there will be a slowdown and requirement of pilots in future. We also got our aircraft almost 25%, 30% cheaper than everyone else, because at that time the prices were pretty down. So challenges, threat, blockers, I would consider nothing as bad as COVID can happen to the industry. And even then, if it is able to recover, we also have flexibility in terms of multiple locations in the world. So it's not just India that we are focusing on. We already have contracts with few companies in the US and Canada. And once we set it up here, building infrastructure at those places will be very, very easy. And being an Indian company doing it abroad, we have a lot of support also from the government to execute that. So, okay, I also have one more question. Where do you plan for third base? Okay, we already have an MOU with the state government of Tamil Nadu. And being a startup registered in Uttar Pradesh, we have around 16 runways which are being offered now for FTO, MROs, and other purposes in Uttar Pradesh. So these are the two governments we are in talks with. However, we keep applying wherever we get an option, preferably MP and below, to avoid fog and other weather activities. So that is the area that we are focusing on: North Karnataka, Maharashtra, South MP, and the rain shadow areas basically.
Right. Shailendra is asking, how is the product placement of Hercules Aviation into aviation training sector?
Right. So like I said, with basic SEO and just basic word of mouth, our bucket is right now full. We have more than we can chew. So we have focused on the product, cost, quality, and deliverables. So we deliver the training in 12 months and we give it in writing. We also say if we don't do it, we will refund the money and still train you. So that's a very aggressive approach. And why that aggression comes, or where that confidence comes from, is that we have done that in 4 or 5 months period. So we know that if student sticks to their obligation, we will be able to stick to our obligation. So we do put caveats of performance and clearing every stage at whatever time period is defined, leaves restricted to a maximum of 15 days in the entire training duration. So with all those caveats, we are very sure that we'll be able to deliver. That we are very certain that no flight school, not just in India, but in the entire world, has been able to give it in writing. 14% is expensive compared to market. Are you saying that it's expensive, or are you asking if it is expensive?
Just unmute and articulate your question for us. Abhay, are you there?
Okay, I'll still continue. If you're
in reference to the NCD that we are speaking.
Yes. See, aviation sector per se, being a small company and a new company, it's not easy to raise funds on NCDs or debt from banks or typical financial institution in the amount of 3 crores, 4 crores, and 5 crores. With our balance sheet, wherein we have revenues of 5 crores, the government schemes generally fund you around 20%, 25% of your revenues, and so on and so forth. So when we know that we can service this debt, we have our profitability, which is at around 20-25%, then 14% doesn't look expensive to us. It gives us more freedom, gives us more chance to acquire assets and grow faster and reach the profitability of 30-35%. So then 14% doesn't look very expensive to us. So that is how we look at it.
Yes.
Amarjit,
your first question is already answered about.
Yes, you will have that option.
Yes. Your second question is for how many days the campaign will be live. We suppose the campaign is already filling fast, specifically for the equity side. We already have certain soft commitments which are initiating their transactions. For NCD, we still see there is a small room over there. because honestly, even people are evaluating and comparing between both the investment options. So I think equity for a lot of folks is making more sense, and that's where I think it's filling fast. So it typically depends on how soon people are taking transactions, and that's when we close.
Right.
Uh, the third question is,
So
what makes HATS different from 34 flying training school? I mean, I think you've already answered that, but if you
yes,
add one more line.
uh, right. So it's how we do things that makes us different. So once the students actually come to us, our till now within a period of 3 to 4 years, our biggest strength has been word of mouth marketing. Aviation being such a small community, they know that what kind of quality we offer, and the pricing is already there for them to see. So although I feel that pricing will not be a major concern, students deciding whether they should pay 37, 38 lakh or 40 lakh will not be a major concern. So what we focus on is our quality and our deliverables. So as I said earlier, nobody gives it in writing the way we do, and make things very, very clear. So that is what it is. When okay, will you accept more than the target campaign amount? I will leave that decision mostly to SterlCent. Why? Because this is part of a larger round that's happening. So where we actually reach and how much more can we accept, it will depend on. We are raising a much higher fund because our aircraft that we are purchasing right now is there are two aircraft. We are negotiating. One is of around 7.5 CR and the other one is around 2.5 CR. So we are structuring the deals according to that, and we have a larger fundraise going on. So how much we accept here will be based on our decision with in consultation with SterlCent.
Perfect. Perfect. Just to add to your last statement, Abhinav, I think for the benefit of the group, the reason why you see a lesser amount of equity deal as compared to the NCD is because, as Abhinav said, there is already an institutional round going on currently, wherein a lot of family fund houses have given commitment to Abhinav. These are majorly based out of Hyderabad, considering the headquarters of HATS is also in Hyderabad. So that is where we just wanted to contribute to a smaller part in the whole equity side and just reap out certain good benefits for the user base that we have, and that is the reason we pushed Abhinav. Initially, he was not really willing to, put up an equity round on the marketplace. But since we insisted and we wanted to take out some benefit for our users, we thought we'll just place a small round of equity. And why NCD in a bigger chunk is typically, as Abhinav said, because they have a capacity to service the debt right now, considering the revenues that they are generating. So that is one big reason, why there is an NCD deal offering 14% on the platform going live.
Right. Any perks like you offered in earlier campaign, like free flying? Okay. See, we spend an operational cost of around 7,000 to 8,000 on 1 hour of flying. So you can, our investors, when they come on board and they need to book an aircraft for flying or something, we can at least offer that you can cover the operational cost and use the aircraft when it is available, and utilize it to your benefit. So we can definitely, people who are investing a particular amount or more, maybe we can help you with the initial phase of PPL if you are interested in. So that is something that we can do. Maybe go through our video lessons, get your initial PPL training started. So that is something that is much easier, and it's a soft expenditure from our side, and it's not hard cash that we'll be spending.
Abhinav, I think a small surprise for our user base is already going to come on the similar line. So you'll not have
Okay.
to sell off 7 to 8K on this
Yeah.
operation cost. Amarjeet is asking, why is there no listing in recent weeks? So Amarjeet, typically our platform is not very open for any random deals to be listed. We handpick these assets which has, as we initially told in this call, there is a due diligence process that we follow, and there is an exhaustive checklist of documentation that we do before listing any of the deals on the platform. So typically, we handpick these assets during a longer course of tenure. So consider if we have 100 assets potential landing on our platform, we would only be choosing 1 to 2 assets for going live on our marketplace. So that is how stringent our compliance and internal policies are. And that is the reason we do not randomly start onboarding multiple deals on the platform. So definitely to, analyze and judge a quality asset, it takes some time. And that is the reason the pace of onboarding certain deals on the platform is on a little slower side. But definitely by the coming week, you'll be able to see some movements in the warehousing side. Perfect. So I think we're already up 10 minutes, 12 minutes now. If not have any other questions from the audience, we can, I think. Lovely. Abhinav, thank you so much for taking out this time. I know you have some family commitments today.
Right.
Thank
Thanks a lot.
you
Thanks a
so
lot.
much. Thank you, Abhinav. If there is any other question, I'll be passing out an email.
Thanks. Thanks. Good day. Good day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a nice day.